Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Now and also we have established a communication between the PingFederate and then the ping directly with the 6030 seeds port also. That is also working fine, right? Now what we are going to do? We are going to continue with the next part. We have discussed about the LDAP and LDAP basics. Everything has been completed, right? Now what we are going to do? We are going to start with the single sign-on. Now tell me what is a single sign-on, guys, actually. Any idea what is a single sign-on basically? One credentials to access the multiple domains. That is also fine actually. That is also good. But before that, in a normal case, what is a single sign-on actually? Like before going into one domain to another domain and all. Within domain itself using one credentials. You log in one time and use multiple applications. They are the same session. Same session. Exactly. It is going to share a same session, right? Same session. For example, if you open another tab. In the Chrome browser itself, if you open another tab, right? New tab in the Chrome browser. If you open another tab, right? Here, these are all Google applications, right? Google application is nothing, but it's like for example, Google Drive or like a Google Meet or like a YouTube or Google Play Store or like a different Google applications. If I want to access these applications, right? If I want to access these applications, what I need to do? I need to use my Gmail account and then the password actually right. For example, here. Now, if she tried to access the Google Play Store, right? Just try to click on the Google Play Store actually. If you could see, she can be able to automatically log into the application because she already logged into the application with the Google account. Maybe like she might have using the Gmail account or she might have tried to log in with the YouTube account like that. Any kind of an application that is fine actually. Here, if you could, can you control shift I actually? Just can you type control shift I? Here, can you go to the in the left hand side if you could see the cookies, right? In the left hand side. In the application itself. Can you click on the application? In the left hand side, if you could see the cookies, right? If you could see the domain, it's Googlecom actually. She might have access to the Gmail.com or Google Play Googlecom. Here, this is the Play Googlecom, right? If you try to access the Google Meet, which Meet Googlecom, if it is like Drive Googlecom, it's a Google Drive, right? Different for application, but sharing the same session according to the same domain actually. You are going to access the same application. Sorry, same. You are going to access the same domain application by using the same username and password. But if the session is already there means it won't ask you to type the username and password. Actually, It will automatically log you in because it is a seamless. That is why we are calling this as a single sign-on, because it is sharing the session between the same domain. Actually, but this is the same domain, right? This is a normal single sign-on actually. What if, like you already mentioned, from one domain to another domain, actually, open another tab, type Zoom space meeting, actually right. Just type Zoom space meeting. If I try to access a Zoom meeting, right, I can also log into the Zoom meeting actually. I can also log in. If you could write in the top right hand side corner, there is a sign in button, right. If I click on the sign in button, I can able to log into the Zoom application basically. If you could scroll down, there is a Google authentication is available, right? Can you click on the Google authentication tab? It will ask you to choose your Google email address or Gmail application, right? Sorry, mail address and password. Just try to accept it. Uses the same account actually? That's fine. If you could see, it won't ask you to type the password actually. If you could see, it will automatically log you to the application. If you could see, right, how come the Google account session has been shared with Zoomers actually. That is known as the federated single sign-on actually, enabling the single sign-on from one domain to another domain. Also, like we are going to enable this SO within the same domain also. Actually, both of them, the single sign-on, we are going to enable it. That SO is known as the federated single sign-on actually. Here it's a cross-domain, right? You are accessing the authentication is happening on the Google account, right? But you are accessing the Zoom meeting. It's totally two different entities actually, right? For example, let's say in your organization, let's say if you are working in TCS or Wipro or like any organization, you will be having TCS mail address, right? Let's say sumadi@tcs.com, actually, right? I can able to use my mail address and password to access the Microsoft application, right? Microsoft is a third party and TCS is a third party, right? Similarly, you are having your Bank of America email address, right? By using your Bank of email address application, use mail address and password, you can able to try to access like Microsoft application means, let's say like Outlook or like Microsoft Teams or like SharePoint, Microsoft Excel, Word, Office 365 application, right? And then these are all applications. It's a totally different one, right? Bank of America is a different entity. Microsoft is a different entity, right? How come this particular information is being exchanged actually between these two different entities? In order to enable the signal sign on between two different entities, we will be using different tools actually. First of all, here, if I, for example, let's say like if you're working in TCS, means TCS is want to use the Microsoft. If I want to access the Microsoft application, means I need to create a separate account in the Microsoft, right? I cannot be able to directly go ahead and access the Teams or like Outlook or any Microsoft application. Not only Microsoft, you can also take the Cisco, right? Salesforce or Cisco, any application, I cannot directly access it, right? I need to register I need to register in those kind of a application, basically, right? Then only I need to have a separate account and password to have a access on it, right? This is how come we are establishing a communication between the one that is TCS with the Microsoft or TCS with the Cisco organization. Actually, right? Microsoft is a different organization and TCS is a different organization, right? If you are an employee of TCS, means you can have the If you want to access for example, if you are having a separate account in the Microsoft, right? Let's say you are having a separate account in Microsoft and you are accessing the Microsoft applications. Actually, what if you leave the company on the TCS? Actually, what if you left TCS organization? They will delete your account in TCS. But if they forgot to delete the account in Microsoft means what will happen? Still, you will be having the access even though you went outside from the TCS actually. In order to overcome this kind of unnecessary issues, right? Like Microsoft will say, hey, TCS, you can do your authentication from your side. Actually, you can do the authentication from your side. Just give me your employee details. I will enable the access for them actually. What they are asking, Microsoft is asking. Please share your employee details actually. The risk is there for both of them because, TCS is sharing the employee details to the unknown person. Actually, my unknown kind of entity, that is a Microsoft third-party entity, right? Microsoft is enabling the access to unknown people, right? Microsoft does not know the TCS employees, right? They are just simply giving the access to them actually. How they are? The risk is there for both of them actually. How the information is being exchanged between these two parties actually. That means TCS is giving their employee details. Employee details means it's just a first name, last name, mail address, the UID employee. ID these details for the mobile number and all. It is not. They are not going to share the password of a user to the another entity. Only these details. And then Microsoft is enabling the access to the unknown people, right? Because they are not going to do the authentication. Like someone else doing the authentication for the Microsoft, right? How come the information is being exchanged actually? This is what it happened actually. They are going to exchange the information based on a simple trust actually. Based on a simple trust. That trust is known as the federation actually. That trust is known as the federation. Now we all know, right? How we can able to enable the trust between two different entities. Certificate. Exact. By using the certificate only. For example, like whenever the user is trying to access the application on Microsoft, means Microsoft will send a request to the TCS. Hey, one TCS employee trying to access the application. Can you do the authentication and send me the response? Actually, then TCS will send a request to Microsoft will send a request to the TCS actually. Then what TCS will do? Then the TCS will do the authentication for them. Because TCS is the one who holds the user's right. They will do the authentication. Once the authentication is successful, they will create the response and share the response back to the Microsoft. Microsoft needs to validate, right? Because they need to validate the response, right? Because they need to trust the responses first of all, right? Because Microsoft does not know whether like TCS is sharing the correct response or not, right? Because they can also share the response without authenticating the user also, right? They need to trust the response actually. How they will trust the response? Based on the certificate actually. TCS will sign the response actually. Hey Microsoft, this is the response. I have created this response only after the successful authentication of a user. You can trust this response and please allow the user to log into the application. That's why the TCS is signing the SAML response and send the SAML response back to not the SAML response. Actually, it's just a response basically. It is like a SAML response or auth response. We will be seeing that later actually. Send the response back to the Microsoft actually. Microsoft will validate based on the certificate. If certificate is there, then they will allow the user to log in into the application. Basically, if they don't have the certificate is not matched means, then they will reject it. I will share my screen and I will show you what diagrammatic representation. You can just forget about the SAML actually. It's the same case with the SAML and OAuth, which we are going to see later. Actually, for example, let's say if the user is trying to access the application, maybe you can also consider this as a Microsoft actually. Microsoft will have different set of application, right? It may be like a Teams or Outlook or Microsoft Word or Excel or anything, right? The user is trying to access the application. Then the application. Once the application receives the request from user, right? It will send a notification. That means it will send a request to if it is a TCS or Wipro or like anything basically. Then what TCS will do? They need to get the username and password from the user, right? They will throw the login screen to the user. Then the user will type the credentials actually. Then they will validate the credentials according to the data store basically. They will go and check in the data store and validate the credentials. Once the credentials has been validated successfully, it will send the response back to the application. It is not going to send the response directly. It will sign the response by using one kind of a certificate actually. Because to enable the trust actually, right? Then SP needs to validate the response. Which user is trying to access the application and then whether they can able to trust the response or not. Actually, if they seize the certificate, then they will match it and they will accept the response actually. If there is any kind of a mismatch in the certificate means, then they will reject it actually. That is, the application will reject the response basically. If they accept the response, then the user will have the access to the application. Basically, the flow is nothing, but the user will try to access the application. The application will create a request and send the request to the TCS or Wipro or anything. Then the TCS will throw the login screen to the user because the validation of the credentials is happening on the TCS or Wipro or Bank of America only, because they are the one who is providing the identity of a user. The application is providing the services, right? There are two parties will be there. One is identity provider. One is service provider actually. The person who is providing the services, right? The entity which is providing the services. Here, Microsoft is providing the services only. Bank of America is providing the identities, right? Which is doing the authentication for a user? Bank of America, TCS, or Wipro, or IBM. Right. They are all the identity provider because they are the one who is doing the authentication for a user. Basically, this is the normal. Then how the single sign-on comes into the picture means, if one session has been enabled means again, automatically the session will get being shared with different domains. Actually, that is known as the federated single sign-on actually. That is known as the federated single sign-on. Understood? We will see the components in a bit actually. We already saw the data, right? That is one which is used to establish a communication between the PF to the ping directory. Basically, we will see the other two components now actually. But right now you understood the concept of this one, right? Any doubts on this one? Generally the response whatever the IDP, which is signing the response. Right? The certificate would be always evident. People could be able to see the certificate in the SAML response. They can able to see it, but they cannot be able to hack it actually or change it. It won't work basically, because they can able to see only the public key, not the private key of a certificate. Understood? Normally signing the SAML. Signing, the response is nothing but, for example, right? You guys we are all using our bank account and alright. For example, let's say you are going to any kind of, let's say like you are purchasing a home loan or something like that. You want to purchase a home actually. You want to take a loan. There is a shortage of funds for you. You just want to take a loan actually. When they are asking for a loan, right, you need to provide your signatures actually. At the time of your signature, they will ask, please put your signature as per your bank records. Actually, why they are asking to put the signature as per the bank records? Even for example, let's say you are writing a check to me actually, because I am the trainer. You are going to pay me, right? Let's say like you are writing a check to me, right? When you are writing a check to me, if you mismatch your signature wrongly, means if I withdraw, if I try to put the check on my bank account, means what they will say signature mismatch actually. Then they cannot be able to verify the check is a correct one or not. Actually, they will reject the check actually, because the signature is not properly matched actually with the bank record. The same thing actually. How will you trust it, right? How for example, let's say if you are writing a check, means they are going to withdraw some amount from your account only, right? They are going to take the amount from your account actually. That means you need to give your authorization. Actually, how we are giving the authorization? You need to provide a signature, right? At that time, if the signature is not it's mismatching, means then how come they can able to take the amount, right? The authorization will get fail actually, right? They cannot be able to trust this check as a proper. They will be trust this check as a fake one. Actually, they will reject it. The same case actually. Here also the same response will be signed by some kind of a certificate. If the certificate is mismatching, means then the application will reject this response as a wrong one, fake one, and then they will reject it basically. This is the same purpose actually. Segmental is nothing but in order to trust it. In order to enable the trust basically. If the trust didn't happen, then how come the application will allow the user to log in? They will. They are not trusting the response. Basically, they are not. They are not sure that the application, that the organization, that TCS or Wipro, they completed the authentication for a user or not. Actually, they are thinking that response they have generated. The application is thinking that the response has been generated by TCS or Wipro. As a like, they are just generated response without authenticating the user actually. They will think like that if the certificate is not properly matched. Actually, that is known as T. We can call it as a signing actually. Signing the response by using one kind of a certificate. Actually, it will be in the plain text format only. Even anyone can able to see what is the content, but you cannot be able to hack it actually, because the security is too much high actually. Understood now? Any doubts, guys? All good? There will be two different certificates. We will be using it. But the purpose, right, it's the same actually. The type of certificate is same. It's a server authentication, client authentication only. But you are not going to use the same certificate here also, actually. It will be two different certificates. I cannot use the same LDAP certificate here actually. Even though, if the host name is same, right, I cannot use that one. You need to create a separate one actually. From the application side, they will provide their certificate and that is optional actually. Application side, that certificate is not that much required. Like from our side, we need to provide the certificate mandatory. We will see that. What are the requirements for the application certificate? When we are establishing that trust kind of thing. I mean, it's not required. Both should exchange that certificate. Only one party should have to exchange the certificate. We will send the certificate to them. They can able to use our certificate actually. That's all. You are understanding the federated SO workflow. The application team should have the certificate. And the same, like they provide the certificate to the user. The client. No, not the user actually. For example, not the user, the client. Client team means the TCS or the right. No, we are the TCS or Wipro actually. If you are working in Bank of America means, then you are the one who is going to the authentication actually. You are the one who needs to provide the certificate to the application. Microsoft like that. Here the certificate only used for the read the data, right? No, just for enabling the trust actually. That's all. Nothing much more actually. Oh, thing. The certificate is not going to enable used for the authentication or the certificate is not going to use for reading the data. Nothing. This is all. Nothing else actually. Just the certificate is used only for enabling the trust. Actually, that the application they need to trust the response, right? In order to accept the trust and then they need to accept the response. Basically, in order to prove that the response is coming from the trustable source only. That is why they are using the certificate actually. Nothing much more than that. It's a straightforward. It's not like any. It's not like much like complex kind of a technical. It's not that much kind of a technical. It's a simple technical configuration only. When we do the practical right, you will understand more actually. One question. Even in SO or the SSO, there should be IDP initiated flow and ESP initiated flow, right? That we will be saying it actually. There are two workflows will be there. Both the flows will happen in the SSO and FSSO, right? Even for within the same domain also. It will be the same thing. FSSO, it's the same thing actually. From cross-domain also, it's the same thing. For inside the domain also, it's the same thing actually. But even for both the use cases, IDP initiated and SP initiated can. Is it possible? It's possible. Yeah, because inside the same domain also. For example, let's say you are working inside the, for example, let's say like XYZ actually, but you are yours. You are going to have the SSO for the XYZ application actually, right? That application inside the TCS only. Maybe like a leave application or like a My Career application where you can able to provide the appraisal rating actually. It's the same application. They will enable the similar kind of SSO, only actually the same process, how you are following for the SSO. It's the same thing. Inside the same domain application also. They will follow actually. The same kind of a request will come. The same kind of a response will go actually. What is the URL, right? The URL matters actually. Because in the URL only, you can able to understand whether it is the same domain or like totally like a different domain actually. Microsoft Com, like inside the same organization means it will be like leave, tease, like that kind of a application basically. This is how we can able to use we will be seeing here in this diagram itself. There are like lot of other stuffs are there. We will be seeing it in coming classes. This one, federated single sign-on. We understood, right? In order to enable the federated single sign-on, there are certain protocols. Are there actually? There are two protocols. Are there? One is SAML. Another one is auth actually. Another one is auth. Basically, SAML protocol is nothing but, let's say like for example, is T. We can say SAML is a trusted protocol. It has been introduced on 1998 actually. And then there are 3 versions are there. Maybe you can also make a note of it actually. SAM Quaimon 2. SAML is the latest protocol. Latest protocol which was introduced on 2005 only. 2005 SAML 2.0 protocol has been introduced. This has been introduced by the OSIS organization only. OSIS is the organization. It's Identity and Access Management Organization only. They have introduced this SAML protocol to enable the SSO for like from one domain to another domain or within the same domain also actually. And then similarly there is another protocol called auth. OAuth, we will be seeing it. First of all, what is a SAML? A SAML is nothing but it's a security accession markup language actually. Security accession markup language. That accession right? SSRTION? SSRTION actually. This SAML accession is nothing, but it's also known as response actually. It's a response. We can also call it as a SAML response markup language. SAML accession. Or security accession markup language or like a security response markup language actually. That accession is nothing but that is known as T, like a response. In other words, we can also call the accession as the response basically. SAML, we all know it's a simplest protocol and it's a secured protocol actually. If you go anywhere around the world, right? Any SSO tool you can able to use it. PingFederate or Okta or any SSO tool, we can work on it. Every application, they will ask the first question whether SAML is supported or not. Actually, because it's a secured protocol. It's a restricted protocol. We can also call it as a secured protocol. No one cannot be able to till now, right? We know SAM 2.0 has been released on 2005. It's been nearly 18 to 19 years actually. Still now there is no new version has been released actually. Now, by that name itself, we can able to understand how much reliable this solution actually. How much trustable this particular protocol basically. The security is the most important advantage in the SAML. It's nearly impossible to hack the response of the SAML. Hack the response which has been generated by the SAML, basically. That is the Security Association Markup Language. It's a XML format only. There will be 2 things. One is SAM request. One is SAML response actually. The application will create the SAML request and then your TCS will generate the SAML response. Basically, there are two parties involved. One is identity provider. Another one is service provider. IDP means who is providing the identity of a user. Here in this example, TCS on Microsoft. Can you tell me who is the identity provider? TCS. TCS, a Wipro or IBM or Bank of America. That will be considered as an identity provider because they are the one who is doing the authentication. We integrate our PingFederate inside your TCS or Wipro or IBO or Bank of America as an identity provider actually. IDP is our PingFederate actually. That is TCS. We integrate the PingFederate inside the IBM basically. IBM or TCS or Wipro. Now you can able to understand in this diagram. Right. We will integrate inside that is your identity provider actually. This PingFederate will be considered as the identity provider. Then obviously, who will consider as the service provider? The service provider is nothing but who is going to provide the services to the IDP. Here, SSP is nothing but they are the one who is going to provide the services of these particular users actually. For example, in our case, Microsoft, who is Microsoft, and TCS, who is providing the services to the employees. Basically, obviously it's a Microsoft only, right? They are the one who is the service provider actually. Here you can tell me who is creating the SAML request here. Microsoft. Exactly. Who will generate the SAML response? TCS, that is the PingFederate actually. Now how they are validating the SAML response? With the certificate. First of all, I am the user. I am trying to access the Microsoft application that is a service provider. Because we can also call Microsoft backend server as a service provider or Microsoft will have their own service provider also. Actually, then based on that. Here in service provider, how come it is generating the correct SAML request to this particular PingFederate TCS or YPAO or IPM, right? How come it is exactly redirecting the request to this one? Because information about IDP is configured on the SP side. Actually, information means this kind of, whatever the information about the IDP, right, is configured on the SP side. Actually, according to that, whenever I try to access the application then according to the information about the IDP is configured right. Based on that, it will generate the SAL request and send the SAM request to the IDP. Then how come IDP will accept the SAML request? Because in SAM request itself, little bit small amount of information about SP is passed in the SAM request actually. Inside the request, SP information will be there actually. Then IDP or also information about SP should be configured on IDP. Now you can able to understand right. Our information before enabling the single sign-on right. SP information should be configured on IDP. IDP information should be configured on the SP actually. Then only based on that it will generate the SAML request. Then how come the IDP will accept the SAM request? Here already, information about SP is already configured. Again, certain information inside the SAML request to SP information should be there actually, right? Both of them will get matched actually. If both of them is getting matched, then the IDP will throw the login screen to the user. Then they will type the credentials. Then it would go to the PD for authentication. Once it is successful, it will generate the same response and sign the response by using the certificate actually and send the SAM response back to the SP. Here, we need to have one more actually. In older days, There is a SAML response only and we are attaching the certificate actually. But nowadays there is one mandatory field. We are passing it in the response actually. That is known as a SAML subject. Either mail address of this particular user or like a UID of this particular user. We are passing this in this particular field actually. Like a SAML subject. For example, let's say if your UID is 8123456 means you are passing the 8123556 in the SAML response as a SAML subject actually. Nowadays, there are two validations are happening on. One is the certificate validation. Another one is they are validating the SAML subject. If both of them are there in the SAML response, then only the SP will accept it actually. If any one of them is missing, then they will reject the response actually. This is known as the SAML response validation. Actually, the request will come from the sorry. The user will try to access the application. Based on the information configured on SP. According to that, it will generate the SAML request and send the SAML request back to the IDP. Then IDP based on the request and already information configured on IDP right about the SP. Based on that, it will sorry. Based on that, it will create it will accept the SAML request and authentication will happen. Once after the successful authentication, it will generate the SAML response and attach the certificate. And also we can also attach either the mail address or UID in the SAM subject. SAM subject is the unique one actually. Either mail address or UID of a user, we can able to attach it in the SAM subject. Actually, apart from that, optionally you can also attach like first name of a user, last name of a user. Also, you can able to pass it. But that is optional. Some application will ask for it. Some application will reject for it actually. They will ask, hey, PingFederate team, just send me only the mail address in the SAM subject. We don't need any other attributes. Some application they will ask actually, hey, PingFederate team, can you send me the UID in the SAML subject? And can you send me first name and last name and mail address in the optional attributes in the response means? Then we can able to send it actually. Basically, this is known as the SAML workflow. It's the same workflow which has been enabled with the federated single sign on the same request and response. Advantages security is the most important advantage in the SAML. And then it's the simplest protocol. Simplest protocol in the sense means it is easier to validate and then easier to understand it. Basically, anyone can able to configure the SAML easily and then the response. When you are typing the username and password right, the next second it will authenticate and allow you to the access into the application. Basically, that kind of a response, right? It's much faster in the SAML actually. It is much faster in the SAML. You won't feel any kind of a difference actually. Even when we do the testing right. After successful typing the username and password, you won't even feel anything. The next second you will be logged into the application actually. That is the response time in the SAML actually. The response time is faster. The security is more secured actually. And then it's a restricted flow. You cannot customize the SAML on your own actually. And whatever the advantages are there, right? There are equal disadvantages are also there in the SAML. What is the most important advantage? We have seen it in the SAML actually. SAML response is faster. Before that, the security is the most important advantage in the SAML, right? We are not sharing the passwords. That is fine. Even in OAuth also it's the same case. the most important aspect or advantage of the SAML, that is a security actually. No one cannot be able to hack the response basically. Even though the response we are passing, it is a plain text format only. But no one cannot be able to hack it, actually because of the certificate. Only one certificate is there. That makes the SAML more secured actually. But whatever the advantages and whatever the restriction in the SAML, right? The same thing. It is acting as a disadvantage in the SAML actually. The security and as well as the restriction, right? Like what happened, right? When SAML 2.0 on 2005 that has been introduced, right? Lot of application came and they went to the OSI's organization and asked SIAM 2.0 is not working for certain kind of applications. Actually, SIAM 2.0 is not working for certain kind of applications. What kind of applications actually? Later they found out SAML is the most suitable versions for the like a web-based application or browser-based applications or like a cloud system. Actually, SaaS application. What they did right. The OSIS organization. They didn't solve this issue in the SAML because they know they cannot be able to edit anything in the SAML. Actually, it's restricted, right? What they did, they introduced another protocol called OAuth 2.0, actually OAuth 2.2. SAML 2.2.2, but OAuth 2.2 has been released 7 years later than the SAML, actually. SAML is 2005 actually. But 7 years later, 2012, only the OAuth has been introduced. Because there are lot of changes required on the OAuth configurations. Actually, but SAML is the trusted one and then it is a secured protocol. If you go anywhere at around the world, right? Any organization will start with the SAML only, actually. We will be discussing more about the OAuth later, actually. But still till now you understood the concept, right guys? The identity provider, the service provider, and then the application, and then the whatever the SAL procedure, right? SAML, response or SAML assessment. The certificate used for the SAML actually. Understood SP and ID. All good on the same part, guys. Just one question. You mentioned SAML is not supporting for certain other applications, right? Is there any specific applications that we will be seeing it? For example, let's say do you know what is the multiple page applications or single page applications? Sorry. Multiple page application could be web application. Single page is the just only one page. Is that? Page means it's only one HTML form actually. For example, let's say here, if you could see this is a Zoom meeting. Here in the left hand side, can you click on any? If there is any kind of, just click on schedule a meeting there. If you could see, it's the same page. It has been reloaded. The same kind of options is there in the left hand side, right? If you could see the same page, it's reloading my infinite number of times actually. That is known as the single page application. If you see it as a perspective, right, it's only one page actually. But it has been reloaded multiple number of times actually. But you know, right, the Salesforce application or the Amazon, right? If you click on the multiple page application means it's like a multiple HTML forms, multiple XML actually. If you click on, even for my account, also in a multiple page application, it will read. Open it in a different tab actually. Not here actually. I'm saying when you do it in the Salesforce, right? We will be doing one application actually. The real-time configuration for the PingFront, right? When we do that one, right, we can able to see the difference clearly. If you click on the settings button inside the Salesforce application, right, it will open it totally in a different tab actually. It will open it in a totally like a different tab. That is the multiple HTML forms actually. Single page application means only usage of only one form to access the application. Here if you could see the Zoom meeting, right? Only one form that has been reloaded multiple number of times or infinite number of times actually. That is known as a single page. But what happened, right? On 2005, once the same point protocol released, right? What happened? They found out it is not properly. The SAML is not properly working for the multiple page. Sorry, single page applications basically. They found a restriction. Why? Because they found one kind of a situation. Why? Because all the single page applications has been introduced based on the JavaScript action. AngularJS or Node.js or JavaScript. It may. The JavaScript is there, right? That is the weakest link in the browser actually. It is the weakest link in the browser. The same JavaScript will be used to develop the application inside the mobile phones actually. If you want to develop application inside the mobile phones, right? Like Android or iOS mobile phone, right? The JavaScript is the only way actually. JavaScript is the only go-to for developing the application in your mobile phone or Android or iOS mobile phone. Actually, the same thing happened actually. Like based on the usage of the JavaScript, right? The SAM won't work actually because JavaScript is acting as a vulnerability easily hackable for all the applications. Actually, in order to, if the application is using the AngularJS, which then directly you can ignore the SAML request. Directly, you can suggest to go with the auth configurations actually. That we will be seeing it later. What happened, right? On 2005, it was not working properly, the SAML request. There is a case they didn't solve the issue for the SAML. They just introduced another protocol called auth 2.2. That means like a multiple page application will go for a SAML. Single page application will go for a auth actually. It's not like multiple page application will work in the auth. You can also configure the multiple application page. That is the MPA in the auth also. But you cannot do the vice versa actually. The single page application, you cannot do it in the SAML actually. But multiple page application, you can do it in the auth actually. It will work basically. That is the difference between the SAML and then the auth actually. Understood? All good. On the SAM, what will be the difference between the SAML and then the auth, right? The most important thing, that is the advantages of the SAML, actually because of the security. But there is a disadvantage also. It was not working for all the applications, right? For example, if 100 applications are there, 990 applications will be the browser-based application. 10 applications might be like a mobile-based application or that is the Android-based application or like a iOS-based application. Actually, you can directly go with the auth. You don't need to suggest them to use the SAML also. You can directly suggest them to use the auth itself actually. If it is a mobile-based application. If it is a mobile-based application, directly you can close your eyes and then ask them to go with the OAuth configuration. Understood? Oh, good. Go ahead. The first thing is generally when we try to onboard these applications. When you go to the client, if they say, we are using SAM 1.1 or the earlier versions. Still our ping will support all kind of SAM. Even. Exact. SAML 1.2 and 1.1 can be supported by the SAML actually. But the thing is that I don't know whether application will support it or not. Actually, because it's been 18 years, right? And then also you cannot use the old version actually. I mean why they have released a new version actually. For example, let's say you are using a Pug Mobile. Actually, Pug Mobile or Clash of Clans, they are giving a regular updates to that application, right? If you remember, for example, there is one kind of a bug. You are raising it in one version actually. For example, let's say they have released one version. Like for example, Clash of Clans means in this month they are going to release one update actually. That update is not working. It is not working as expected in the production actually. What they will do? They will fix that issue and they will give an update to that one. Actually, right? They will be like, for example, let's say if there is a iOS version, right? For example, iOS 17 actually. For example, let's say like my current mobile is iOS 17 version actually, right? But what happened, right? Here, if you could see, in my mobile phone, if I go and check my system software, right? They are showing some kind of update actually. Update means like why they are giving an update here. Because there is one kind of a software update is available. Actually, that is done as the 17.3 actually. 17.3 means what happened actually? Because they are saying I mean that 17.2. I didn't yet update it actually, right? It is showing like I mean security bug fix actually. Security bug fix actually, we need to update it to a new version actually. I cannot use the old version, right? Because there is some kind of a issue. Similarly, SEMA 120.1. There might be some kind of issue. We don't know. Because it has been long back actually, right? There might be some kind of a problem actually. That is why they have introduced another protocol called SAML 2.2. I mean, they have given an update actually. 7.2 protocol. That is why you should not work. I mean, you should not work with the older versions actually. Whatever the current version is there, right? We need to use the same thing actually. Some applications won't support it actually. Because they won't support the old versions at all. PingFederate. It's available in PingFederate. But I don't think each application. Whatever the application we are going to configure, right? It won't be supported by the old versions actually. Which means like it's up to the application team, right? That's not in our control. We cannot control anything actually. Whatever, I mean the application. Whether we need, we can able to suggest them actually. Once you can able to understand the application perspective, right? You can able to suggest, you can able to confirm it. Whether we need to go with the SAML or auth. We can able to suggest them to go with the auth or SAML, right? But we cannot come. We cannot be able to. Like what we can say, the finalization is the application only. But if there is any kind of security perspective issue means, we can force them to use the SAML like that actually. The thing is that, like even though anyway, if we are forcing anything, we will see that, like lot of security perspective. What are the security issues will come when you are using the auth actually? What are the real-time issues with the application team? We will be facing it actually. Like an argument like that. We will see that. Because you are talking about the single page application kind of thing. Because if you see this Zoom, like either we can log into this web page as well as there is a, app installed in the system or mobile. When we go to these application teams, to onboard this, on the first instance, we should know this is a app based or a single page or kind of, right? We can able to understand it actually. What can also be enabled further? Browser-based applications also actually. If you could see, right, the Zoom meeting, it's a real-time example for the auth configuration only actually. Straight away, if it is a mobile-based application, right, it's better to go with the auth only actually. That is, for example, UPMOL, Clash of Clients, right? These are all real-time examples for the auth configuration only. Google LDAP server will be acting as the SO server actually. And then Zoom meeting is acting as an application server basically. The Google will do the authentication. For example, just sign out from there actually. I'll show you the sign out. If you sign on to the Google, I'll show you the difference where you are seeing. You can able to see the auth actually. Can you click on sign in again one more time? Google sign in again one more time. Don't do anything here. Just let it be there. If you could see right in the top, in the URL, can you able to see it in the URL there? 2.2 actually. If you could see, you cannot be able to see because you are. If you could see the difference here, 2.2, the URL is suggesting this application is using the auth configuration actually. We can able to see the difference. Whether the application, once after the successful configuration, right, we can able to understand whether the application is using the SAML auth actually. Understood. All good right now, guys. Any doubt? Now the flow for the SAML, right? The flow for the SAML in the PingFederate, right? Including the components of the PingFederate means. First of all, the first point is same as P connections. Actually, maybe you can put SAML process like that. In order to enable the SAML, right, inside the PingFederate, we need to configure this kind of a components actually. Process. The first component will be SP connections actually. SP connection. First of all, the SAML process actually. This SAML process including the PingFederate components. Inside the PingFederate, how we can able to enable the SAML actually. We have seen the SAML flow, right? The normal flow only we have seen. There will be like different flows also. We will be seeing it. Maybe like tomorrow we will be seeing it. First of all, what are the components in order to enable the SAML actually? First component, that is known as the SP connections. Maybe like a SAML space SP connection. Like a service provider connection. Now the name suggests right. You can able to understand right. Service provider connection means you are going to input the SP information actually. That is a service provider connection. The next step, that is known as the adapter. Adapter is the next component. In short, right? Adapter is nothing, but it's an authentication mechanism actually. We are calling this as an authentication mechanism. But don't get confused actually. It is not going to validate the credentials actually. The adapter, which is, for example, In my diagrammatic representation, right, I have mentioned the PingFederate will throw the login screen to the user. The IDP will throw the login screen to the user. Right. Adapter is the component in PingFederate which is used to trigger the user to type the username and password. Actually, it will use the two because, for example, we know the data store. We got the data store actually. We got the source where we can able to check the username and password actually. We need these components actually. We got the data store actually. We know where we need to check it actually. But we don't know how to get the username and password. Right. First step, we need to get the username and password from the user. Right. That is what adapter is the component in the PingFederate, right? Which is used to get the username and password from the user. How we can able to get the username and password from the user, guys? By throwing the login screen that they can able to type. The user can able to type the username and password in the login screen. Basically, by throwing the multi-factor authentication or by throwing some kind of a pop-up. There are like many ways. Actually, we will be saying it. But if you see it as a whole perspective, adapter is the authentication mechanism. It will trigger the user to type the username and password. If I want to get the user, I mean username and password from the user means I need to use the adapter actually. There is no other way we can able to get the username and password from the user, basically in the PingFederate. And keep in mind that, guys, it is not going to validate the credentials. It is not going to do that. Adapter is not going to do the authentication. It is just a simple authentication mechanism which is used to trigger the user to type the username and password. Then now you can ask me one question. We got the first point, that is the adapter. And then the last point, that is the data store actually. Data store where we are going to do the search actually. And then we know how to get the username and password. But there is one step is missing right in between actually. In between the data store and adapter, there will be one kind of a step is missing. We know how to get the username and password. We know where to check. That is, one step is missing. What is the question mark is missing there? We know where to check. That is the last point, data store. We know like what are the things we need to check, right, in between. How to connect to both adapter and data store? It's not like that actually. How to validate the credentials? That is the middle point actually. That is data store, right? Data store is where to check. But how to check? We know where to check. That is a source. In data store, we can able to connect to it. We can able to connect to it. That means I can able to connect to the data store. By using the yield of credentials means in the data store, I can able to do that. But how to check it? What to check, right? What to check? And then how to check it, right? In order to validate the credentials. The adapter cannot be able to validate the credentials. Actually, that is the password credential validator. Password credential validator is nothing but there is a PCV which is used to validate the credentials actually for the user. For the PingFederate. These three components are interconnected, guys. Actually, the data store will be configured in the PCV. The PCV will be configured in the adapter. Whenever the user is trying to access the application, right? The PingFederate will throw the login screen. That is, will trigger the adapter. The user will type the credentials. The adapter will get the credential and pass it to the PCV. Actually, then PCV will have the details actually. Then it will connect to the data store to validate the credentials. Actually, then it will give the success response back to the SAML. Then SAML, obviously it will create the response. And then it will send the response back to the application. Basically, whenever if I try to access the SAML connection, inside the SAML connection, we will be configuring the adapter. Inside the adapter, we will be configuring the PCV. Inside the PCV, we will be configuring the data store actually. All these components are interconnected actually. If you mismatch any one component, I mean, if, for example, if you are not using the PCV, then you cannot use the adapter. If you are not able to use the data store, then you cannot be able to use the PCV or adapter. Actually, both of them actually. If there is nothing, is there adapter, PCV and data store? Nothing is there means you cannot create a SAML or OAuth connection. Actually, these all the three components, right? The adapter, PCV and data store, right? All these three are interconnected with each other actually. I mean, you should have given the data store mandatory while creating the PCV. You should have given the PCV mandatorily while creating the adapter. You should have to give the adapter mandatorily on the when you are creating the SAML connection. Actually, SAML connection will be directly connecting to the adapter. And also please note this point. SAML connection cannot connect to the directly password, credential validator or data store. Actually, it will connect only to the adapter because adapter is the one which is the facing of the user. Basically, face of the PingFederate. If you want to enable, if you already enable the SO right. Adapter is the one which is the face actually. Because that is the one which will trigger the user to type the username and password. Understood, guys? There's 4 components. We will be data store we already created. We will be coming from the bottom to the top actually. We will be configuring from the bottom to the top. We already did the data store. Right. Then next we will be seeing the PCV. Next we will be seeing the adapter. Next we will be seeing the SAML actually. Today we will stop it right here actually. Whatever we have seen, I think we have seen lot of things today. I don't want to dump you guys actually. Today we started with a single sign-on. What is a normal single sign-on? We have seen. Then we have seen the federated single sign-on. You can able to understand the difference. Right. Normal single sign-on, federated single sign-on. Right. Normal single sign-on means within the same domain. FSSO means from a different domain actually. That is a different. And how to enable the trust in the federated single sign-on. Based on the certificate only. There are 2 parties. And then there are how we can able to enable the FSSO. By using the SAM. What is a SAM? Security response. Security accession markup language or security response markup language. And advantages we have seen. Right. Trusted, reliable, restricted, and the fastest response it can able to provide. Right. That is known as the SAML actually. And it's a XML format actually. And it's XML format. And it is used to enable the SO for this multiple page applications basically. Whatever the advantages are there is a disadvantage is also there. Right. Like the same security is acting as the disadvantage of the SAM also. In order to overcome the disadvantage, we are using the OAuth actually. That is another protocol. Yeah. And then 2. It's not 2.1 actually. It's 2. I didn't see that one. That's fine. 2.0 code. That has been released on 2005. Still now. It's been nearly 18 years. There are no other update released actually. Because there is no requirement for the SAML. It's already good. It's already secured. But there are some cases on there. But that is why they didn't solve the issue for SAML. They released another protocol. There is another protocol called OAuth 2.2 actually. That is why for OAuth, right, there is no OAuth 1.1 or 1. Actually. Straight away, there is only OAuth 2.2 protocol. Because they are releasing because of the SAML to enter, right? That's why OAuth 2.0 was introduced. Now in future, maybe like 2024, right? OAuth 2.1 is going to release actually. It's already confirmed. Beta testing and all is going on. Already confirmed 2.0 is going to release. We will see what are the changes will be there in the 2.1. It's going to be a huge change actually in the OAuth configuration. I mean not on the configuration level. I'm saying it will be like it is going to be a huge one actually. It will be like totally flipping the table basically. Right now SAML is the most used protocol actually. Like for example, 100 application means 60 to 70 application. You can go with the SAML. Only like 30 to 30 application, you can go with the OAuth. But right now, if 2.1 has been released means right, the security will get increased actually in the OAuth. We will see. We will see it in the OAuth section actually. We have seen the cell process, right? What are the components we require before enabling the SAML? One is SAML connection adapter, PCV and data store actually. We already configured. We need to start from the bottom to the top only. Bottom means data store, we already configured. Then we will configure the PCV. Then we will configure the adapter tomorrow. Then we will see what are the information about the SAFLL actually. Once we see that, we can directly start configuring the SAML actually. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.